We're in this amazing, I think Yeva will agree, beautiful church here, and it feels quite a special environment to be holding this talk today. But what we're going to do is, you're in for a real treat, because Yeva has very, very kindly, for us today, put together a speech that she'd like to deliver. So we're going to start off by listening to Yeva's powerful and inspiring words. Okay, Yeva. Please, can I ask you to close your eyes? Think back to when you were 12. Where are you? At home? With your friends in school? What are you wearing? What toys are you playing with? Who do you love? Think of your family. Now, imagine seeing your hometown destroyed, ripped up, terrorized. You don't know if your friends are dead or alive. You must run away. Not next door or across the country, across the entire world. Please, open your eyes again. Hello. My name is Yeva. I'm 13 years old. I'm from Ukraine. And my life was full of hopes and dreams, normal, happy. Let me take you back to how it was, back to my hometown of Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine, more than 1 year ago. Like many children who are 12, I live in my own imaginary world. I dream of traveling, seeing America, walking along Italian streets and how real pasta and pizza tastes, flying to London, seeing Big Ben, studying at Oxford University. February 23rd, last year, was just another ordinary day. I get ready to school. We can choose our own clothes, so I hunt through my wardrobe. I put on a cool new jacket and some jeans. I play with my friends Veronica and Hugo, and we run like rockets. I love lessons. I love learning. I'm hungry for new facts, new skills, to play the piano, to learn foreign languages, to read the history of the different countries. After school, it snows. My friend Hugo throws snowballs at me, and I run, laughing, stumbling to escape. I hope you recognize this picture. I hope you experience some of this. Happy childhood, carefree. For dinner, we eat baked fish in sour cream sauce. It was perfect. Grandpa comes, and he brings my favorite cherry cake. A perfect evening. That was my life in those last perfect days. But the next day, on February 24th, at 5:10 in the morning, my dream smashed like a glass vase. Suddenly an explosion, the shrieking of car alarms. Missiles crashed in from the Russian border. We could see them from our window. I lived with my wonderful granny. She said, "Is Putin really starting war with Ukraine?" He was. He is. A blundering escape to the basement. Panic. Tears. No more drinks. Now there is a new goal. To survive. I pray to go back to school. I want to see my classmates again. But I've got biology test, I think. I can't be in a war. I will never return to school. I pray for a peaceful sky, for a shining sun, but that doesn't happen. After spending endless hours in the basement, I felt so fiercely that all of us must appreciate peaceful sky. All of you here appreciate your peaceful life. I desperately want to go outside, to run around the playground and gaze up at weird, fluffy clouds. I cannot The basement is my world. I'm sick of breathing dust. In the evening, the shelling becomes worse and worse. I don't know where to hide. I cuddle up with my grandmother. I only feel safe with her by me. I try to believe that we can survive. Bravely, we go back to our house. I collect my diary and I bring it to the basement. I begin to write these things down as they happen. The situation becomes far worse. Tanks and military vehicles stand between the houses. We cannot believe it. Imagine, tanks on the streets of Ireland, of your hometowns, please imagine it. Snow begins to fall. Food is scarce. I sink into despair. Explosions, tanks, warplanes, bombs. Nothing is recognizable. We have no idea what will happen tomorrow, in an hour, or even in 10 minutes' time. Time flies by. Then it drags on forever. I can't understand what is happening. Every explosion makes me shrink inside. Nobody knows what to do. No one is told us how to deal with it. Our lives hanging in the balance. I only remember how it all began, but then the days merge into a long horror. But there is a flame of hope that lives inside of me, and thanks to my kind grandmother and her determination, we begin to plan our escape. We leave everything behind. I ask, what about my clothes and other stuff? I'll remember her wise answer forever. Do not think about that, Yeva. We're on to Yeva's house. She's a good friend of my grandma. Many of our friends do not have time to leave. Merciless explosion began. If we had stayed to collect our clothes and other things, we would have lost our lives. On the 6th day of the war, at 1 p.m., a cluster bomb flies into the kitchen of our apartment. It destroys everything in its path. 3 whole walls. All our wonderful kitchen turns to rubbish. Ruined. In the evening, more of this horror. When plane after plane drops bombs on people's houses, we know we have to move. We try to leave the city, but not even friends or relatives can help. Not a single taxi will take us out. Everything in the city has stopped working because of the bombings. But, first of many miracles, a friend sends us phone number volunteers. They might take us west, to Dnipro, a city in central Ukraine, a hub for people running from the war. We get in the car. We drive madly through all the queues. The next day, again miraculously, we board the train. But the journey is long and terrifying. The train stops, and all lights go black. We see and feel explosions. I can't talk. I'm convinced if I so much as moved, some bomber will hear me and will be killed. And then, another miracle. We arrive safely in Uzhhorod. We're lucky. Many trains do not reach Western Ukraine. Many are bombed. Questions to map me. Why? How? For what? What has happened to my friends? My city? But then, miracle again. In Uzhhorod, we meet British reporters working for Channel 4. They arrange us to travel to Ireland. Beautiful Ireland, where life is completely different, where I can walk freely and don't be afraid that the rocket will fall on my head. This is where I live now, on the coast of the Irish Sea, in Dublin. Pork O'Brien, Marianne O'Connor, Bloomsbury, publishers from EU and USA, and many other people have helped me and my grandmother so much and given me a wonderful opportunity to publish my diary. All our futures might be better than life today. We can live without wars, hunger, thirst, sickness and suffering. Our generation can make our world meaningful and self-sufficient. And it is in our hands to make it the way as we want it to be. And I dream that my diary might wake people up, people of all nationalities. I realize that the most important thing of all is life. Many people continue to live with shellings. They continue to live their lives in basements. They want to protect their property, their possessions, without ever thinking that at any moment everything can be destroyed anyway by bombs. They do not realize that they will not be able to take their cars, apartments, money to the heaven. Or that the most valuable thing that we all have is life. War has taught me how precious our lives are. Nothing else matters, and I want opportunity to live mine to the full, in peace. Strong faith in God works wonders. We asked Him to help, and He heard us. He paved for us the way to safety. My grandma always told me that miracles can happen. Now, I believe her. I hope that miracles happen for you all too, and that you will always live in a peace without war. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Yeva. I mean, I'm not surprised that people are standing on their feet there for you, because you are an absolutely remarkable young woman. And sharing your story with us, I mean, that would be hard for an adult to actually share. So thank you so much. And Yeva, did you want to start by reading a bit of your prologue for us from your amazing book? If anybody hasn't read this book yet, you have to get a copy. It's fantastic. So we'll just hear a little bit of the prologue, and then I'm going to ask you some questions, if that's okay.
Sure. Prologue. Everyone knows the word war, but very few people understand what it truly means. You might say that it's horrible and frightening, but you don't know the true scale of fear it brings. And so, when you find, you suddenly have to face it. You feel totally lost, walled in by fright and despair. All of your plans are interrupted without warning by destruction. Until you've been there, you don't know what war is. Day first, the beginning. Horror, war, the fear in my eyes. The night had been very ordinary. I was sleeping soundly, but then, for some reason, I woke suddenly, very early in the morning. I decided to leave the bedroom and tried to sleep in the living room. I lay on the sofa, closed my eyes, and started drifting off. 5:10 a.m. I was woken suddenly by a loud metallic sound that echoed through the streets. At first, I thought it was a car being crushed into scrap metal, which would have been weird because I do live near a scrapyard. Then I realized it was an explosion. I saw that Granny was standing by the window, looking towards the Russian border. She was watching missiles flying over the fields. All of a sudden, a massive rocket spat by and exploded with such force that I felt my heart going cold in my chest. Car alarms were going on. Granny was trying to stay calm. She came over saying, "Is Putin really starting war with Ukraine?" I was in complete shock. I didn't know what to say. I knew Granny was telling truth, but it was hard to believe. I've grown up hearing about war, but I've never been in one. I was terrified. We didn't have time to think. No one had told us what we should do if a war broke out. No one of us were prepared for a war. Not I, not Granny, not our neighbours. We just knew we had to leave the flat and get to our basement. My hands were shaking, my teeth rattling. I felt scorched by fear. I realized I was having my first ever panic attack. Granny kept trying to calm me down, telling me I need to focus. Before we left, Granny put a gold crucifix pendant around my neck. I got the necklace when I was christened, and I've never worn it. Then Granny hid her jewelry box away in the wardrobe. I checked my phone. A discussion about what was happening had broke out in our school chat. Once we were ready, we headed for the basement. When we got outside, I started having the panicky feeling again. I couldn't breathe. My hands turned cold and sweaty. The war had begun.
Do you know, as someone who writes historical fiction, I just can't imagine what it must be like to really go through this. And that's the thing, when I read Yeva's diary, this is truth, this is what's happened, and you're telling the whole world about it. But before we discuss more about the war and its impact on you, I'd really love to hear a little bit about the beautiful city of Kharkiv, where you came from, and a little bit about your life before the war. What was life like for you, Yeva?
So Kharkiv is actually one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, and it's cultural center of Ukraine. I love my city, and my life was ordinary. I attended school and I had lots of friends, and my school was one of the best schools in my city. It was at Gymnasium 172. Mm-hmm. We had a swimming pool there. Yeah,
very nice.
Yeah, but actually, sometimes I swam there in a winter term. Then, usually during the summer or holidays, or even when I went to my music lessons, I went to center of Ukraine. I passed, this beautiful buildings, beautiful street, central street, and I usually enjoyed the beauty of my city. And then I attended twice a week English. I did painting, playing on the piano, and
yeah, so you had a very fulfilling and rich life, I'd say, as well. And Yeva was actually showing me before we had this discussion some of her fabulous paintings that she's done. So not only can she write, she can paint, she can speak how many languages?
3 fluently.
Wow, it's just learning. It's just incredible, what you've achieved. But also, what I liked about your diary is at the start, you start off about talking about your 12th birthday party and actually going bowling with your friends, and how somebody got you a bunch of flowers, a boy in your class, which I thought was really lovely. So you've just had a very normal life before everything happened with the war. So in the lead up to the war, did you know much about it? Because to be honest with you, when I was 12, I probably wasn't as clued in as yourself and as clever as you, Yeva, but I didn't really know what was going on much around me. I was just living my life from day to day. Did you know that the war was coming, or was it completely unexpected for you?
Well, we had rumours about that, but we didn't believe that war can break out.
No.
Because we had friends and family there in Russia, and there was no point at all.
No.
So it was when it's begun, it was surprise.
Yes, a big surprise for you. And
Suddenly.
because where you lived with your granny Irina, it's very close to the border of Russia. So like you said, you have friends and family there and everything. So when the bombs first started to drop, you had to make the choice, what do we do? And you decided to go into the basement of your apartment block. So what was that like? Were there many people down there, or that must have been frightening for you? Because I'm sure, I know with World War II, they had bunkers and things for people to stay in that were made for war, but this was just a basement in your apartment block, wasn't it?
it wasn't actually like, it just was a place where tubes with the hot cold water and warm just run like like supply water cold to the apartments, in each apartment. There wasn't like many people, it was like 50 or 40 around like that. And when we got there, it was like kind of cold, and we couldn't like take off our clothes. We had to sit there, and I felt so panicky because like it was just suddenly, and like I was so afraid for my life, for life of my loved ones. I didn't know what will happen, and I just like wanted a normal like for peace.
Yeah.
But then, you know, like in this shelter, when somebody walked by, the scent just went into air and we had to breathe it. And some men brought sandbags to start with the windows because it was like kind of ground level. So no one would have like get hurt if the bomb will explode beside us by the window, like by the glass. And then they showed us the place where was the toilet. And afterwards, some children brought a table and some games. We like found carton boxes and brought some blankets to sleep on it. It was like really bad conditions.
Yeah. And so you were saying that I read in your diary that you played games of dominoes with the other children. And what really strikes me throughout the diary is actually when all this chaos is going around, and it never fails to amaze me, the resilience that children have. And I'll talk to you a little bit in a minute about you and your friends. But you know that you still managed to keep positive and hopeful in the midst of everything going on around you. That was pretty amazing for me as an adult to read. You know, it's quite. And can I just ask you, your granny who's here today? She's an incredible woman. She really is. And I'm just imagining as a mother myself having to make decisions of what to do. But how did you? When did you decide? Right, we need to leave Kharkiv. We need to get away from this apartment that we live in, our home. We have to leave it behind and move somewhere safer. Was it long into the war when you decided that you had to move?
It was like on the second day of the war. We just realized how the situation became dangerous. Like I thought about how we didn't pack anything. We only had a chance to get up to the apartments in the morning really early, and that was last time when we were there. We like got shower and little breakfast there, and then when we got a news that there's tanks standing between the houses, we realized we have to move. And my grandmother tried to call a lot of people, but not like everybody agreed. Only Ina said like that she can host us, and she was like in her house, which was absolute like in another part of the city. And I said to my grandmother, like when she called a taxi, it came miraculously, because sometimes when you're calling taxi during this time, it won't come usually.
Yes, yeah.
But then it happened so easily. But my grandmother said, like, don't think about that, leave everything, we'll be back someday there, we'll collect the clothes, stuff there, when the situation will become calmer. And that moment when I was struck and realized that we don't need to think about our possessions.
Yeah.
But like we only had a little suitcase, which didn't even consist of anything.
Yeah.
I only had my papers, pencils, and that's all.
And I want to ask you now, because when I was a little girl, as many people here will have read the Diary of Anne Frank, I remember thinking I want to write this amazing young woman who wrote this diary during the wartime, which is just amazing and so inspiring. But when did you start to write in your diary? Had you always kept one, or was it just to get you through what you were going through during the war?
I never kept a diary before in my life, but like when the war began, the first day of the war, and during the day in the morning, like when we were in the basement, I just realized that I want to write experience. I want to prove my feelings, everything that we live through. Because, like, I wanted that after 10, 20 years, I'll able to read it. Or maybe when somebody asked me to read it, how was like I was able to describe and read this, like, detailing. Everything in detail will be written there. And it was like kind of my safe place.
Yeah.
And in the middle of the day, I pursued eventually my grandmother to go to our apartment, and I knew that I have this one golden diary, which I got for a New Year. We got like in the shelter back, and when all children were playing the games or drawing or somehow trying to be distracted, I was writing.
That's amazing, and it's so powerful because it's immediate. It's exactly what you're feeling at the time. It's exactly what you're seeing at the time. And it just really, I felt like as a writer that it must have been quite helpful to you as well, in terms of these things that was going on around you, you could talk about it in your diary. It was like a friend to you. I got that feeling that it was your friend almost. It was, that you were able to tell the diary things that you couldn't talk to other people about.
Yes, and when you don't want to talk with people about like everything that you lived through, when we were in Ina's house,
yeah,
you don't want to describe what's happening around you or what's happening in your soul. You just can't write. I could just write in my diary, and when I read like first pages, when it came to Ina, my grandmother and her had tears in their eyes.
Yeah. It is, it's just so powerful and moving. But something about it that I really, for me, I thought, wow, that's incredible, was that you kept in touch with your friends throughout what was going on, throughout the bombs being dropped. You actually had a WhatsApp group, and not only did the children communicate like they do in all society through technology these days, but they would help each other. Like there was a bit in it where one of your friends, I can't remember his name, but was falling out of bed and he was making you laugh. And there's another bit where Yeva was saying, do not give up hope, to another girl who has bombs dropping outside her window. So how did that help being able to stay in touch with your friends from school when suddenly school, the thing that keeps you kind of, the structure in your life was gone? How did that help you keeping in touch with them?
We could support each other. Like I knew that we couldn't support each other physically, but like at least what we could do is just to text each other, to give support, to deliver like compassion towards each other. When one classmate was like near the front line, and like his house was so near the bombings, and he was afraid and he didn't know what will happen. I couldn't help him, but I could just try to keep him emotionally, that we are together with him, that we are like one family, and we like can be like help each other.
Yeah.
And of course it helped us like to communicate and to describe where everybody and where is what part of Ukraine are they and where are they heading off. It was like really important to me and to everybody to see where everybody's like moving.
Yeah, because that's a really good point, because like you didn't set out with a clear plan, we're going to go to Ireland and we'll be safe there. Like it literally changed minute to minute, hour to hour, and all the families involved, in all your school friends, all their families were making these decisions that they didn't know how they were going to end up. They had to kind of just hope for the best. So at least you could keep in touch with your friends. And at the end of the book, actually, Yeva has there's like an up-to-date thing of what all her friends, where they've ended up or what they're doing. Did many of your friends choose to stay in the Ukraine? Are many of them that you went to school with still there in Ukraine at the moment?
So firstly, when first, most of them are moved. Some of them moved to like safer parts, for example, Poltava, or to West Ukraine, Lviv, which was so crowded in the beginning. Some of them moved to Uzhgorod, but many of them went to other countries like Germany, Poland, even USA.
Wow.
So like we were scattered literally around the world. But some of them came back and some of them were staying in the parts like in Ukraine which are safer, or which can be so shocking. But some of them stay in Kharkiv.
Yes, yeah.
And by reading news, even by this day, it can be so scary. Reading that this bomb landed every time 6 bombs landed in Kharkiv, it's so painful.
Yeah.
And I stopped worrying about. Over time, I started worrying about them.
Yes.
And my grandmother or me calling them, asked them, are they okay? Is this bomb far from them? And they say yes. It was far away.
Yeah, it's frightening, and even when you're distanced from it, your heart is still with those people. They're your friends and your family who you love, you know. And you were telling me earlier, Yeva, that in Ukraine now they have, which I found interesting, they have schools still. So the children go on a bus, is that right, to a subway, and they have their lessons underground, which is at least there's some sort of normality for the children that they're still learning, but it's not an ideal situation, obviously.
Well, last year was really hard for my classmates because the whole year they were sitting online at the computer, and one of my classmates described it as to sitting in the cage every time peering at the computer. But this year, there's some children who could joined the subway. Our mayor organized this. And somehow, but they had getting communication between each other. But my classmates from my school, they are still online and they still studying.
Yeah, they're still studying. Wow. Now, one thing I always say to my children or any young people when I'm discussing war or anything like that is that, or any situation in life, that if you're watching the news and something terrible happens, look for the helpers. There's always somebody there lending a helping hand, that's being kind, that is in the middle of the disaster or helping people. And you had a fair share of wonderful people who helped you, such as the Red Cross workers who took you to the train station to get out of Ukraine, out of Kharkiv, and onto the train. And what was it like when you got onto that train? Was it scary on the train as well? You knew you were going. Did you know then you're going out of Ukraine at that stage? So you ended up in Hungary, isn't that right?
No, the last station was Bloomsbury.
Right.
As I said before, we tried to get out from the city when the aviation started, because nothing can be worse than when planes dropping bombs.
Yes.
And you don't know, will you be lucky? Will you get chance or just luck? That bomb will land not in your house but be farther. And it was because my grandma, one next day we tried to phone and find that half of the day spent looking for people who able to bring us out from the city, but no one could. No one. It was high probability of the shelling starting, and then my grandmother said, if God wills, we will go. If not, we will stay. And that's something miraculous happened, that we got numbers of volunteers, and it happened so quickly that when we were standing outside already waiting for them, it was not so big chance that they will come to us or they will find a way. And in Iran for her documents, and she said, if I will be on time, and therefore I'll go with you. If I won't be on time and they will come before I will come, therefore go without me. So we were standing outside and there was explosions beside us, in the distance, and we just prayed to God so that they will find a way. And they weren't actually from Red Cross. They were just volunteers who just put the label of they're volunteers and they helping people get out from Kharkiv. And unfortunately, I saw them how they came, and everything came like desperately. We got in the car, and then enough, just like we're running from the corner, and we passed all the queues from which like led on the road from Kharkiv to Dnipro. There was huge, long hour like spent traffic there. But fortunately, because they wanted to speak this line. And we stayed the night in Dnipro, in a family of Ina. And next day, my grandmother decided to try and to go to Uzhhorod, like to West Ukraine. But there was many people who wanted to get on the train, and it was so dangerous. But like eventually, we got on the train.
Wow.
We didn't know where this train will actually go. We knew that it will go West Ukraine, but what part of that we didn't know, because though it didn't have like such roads in particular, and usually this train have to go through Kiev, but in that case it went beside Kiev, and during that moment Kiev was under the shelling, as you know, like in the beginning of the war, and when we passed, it stopped. Because in case that no one will spot us, that the train passing and we won't be killed. There was a huge probability that we can be found out.
Yes, yeah.
And we would just pray that like we'll just pass this. And fortunately, with the praise of God and with the faith of God, we safely getting to Uzhhorod.
Wow, that's incredible. And maybe you could talk to us a little bit about, you've mentioned your faith is very, very important to you. And how did your faith help you to survive really through everything you've been through? How did it help?
I as well wanted to mention that many people got off in Lviv, but we decided to continue to go to Uzhhorod. But we just prayed for that, like we gave our life, we hope that God will guide us and He will help us to find the way. He will be able to find the way to safety. And we fully trusted Him. And everything just like happened miraculously when we came to school and we were placed, and there was British reporters who made reports about me.
It's amazing. I've seen those reports from Channel 4 News, wasn't it? And Pádraig O'Brien was an Irish journalist who was there. And he was really captivated by Yeva and the fact that she was keeping a diary, and he recorded you in the centre that you were in at night time, and there was just silence. All the children and the ladies in the place, they were listening to you intently about what you're reading your diary. So that from there you ended up being able to come to live in Ireland, thankfully. What did you know of Ireland before? Because I hold my hands up, if I was sent now to Ukraine before the war, I wouldn't know much about Ukraine. Did you know much about Ireland before you came here?
Not really. We didn't know about anything about Ireland.
No.
Everything that I know is like about leprechauns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we thought that Ireland is a really cold country, that we have the people wearing here heavy boots, shoes, and and it's really cold here, and we need to have a really warm coat.
Yeah. It does come in handy sometimes, the warm coat.
But we didn't want firstly to leave Ukraine until the last moment. We got to know that school is going to start education. We are nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And journalists were at this time in Hungary, and thankfully, like there was a representative, like priest from the Pope, a priest from the Pope in Uzhhorod, who arranged us like volunteers to bring us to the Chop. It's a small little town beside the border.
Yes.
And we just crossed, and then we were like, we knew already like that we were going in Ireland because we spoke with journalists.
Oh, amazing. And when you first arrived in Dublin Airport, it must have been, I mean, for Catherine and Gary, the people who were your host family here in Dublin, they're both teachers, is that right? Or they both work? Yeah. It must have been incredible for them to see you but I can only imagine what it was like for you walking into Dublin Airport and a whole new country and getting such a welcome from people.
Yeah, it was really warm welcome, and Actually, when we thought about like that Ireland is really cold, next day we saw that the cherry blossom here. And it's
Yeah.
so warm.
Yeah,
It's so lovely here.
Yeah.
And the next day, when people came, like the neighbors of the family where we stayed, came us to welcome, like they couldn't understand what war is like, but what they could do is just to show sympathy, to show compassion. And even my grandmother couldn't understand English, but they saw how they their sincerity, and how they were happy to see us here.
Yeah. And what's school like in Ireland? Is it very different from school in Ukraine?
It is like, of course, it is kind of different. Firstly, because most schools, like all schools, are mixed in Ukraine, and of course, most of schools don't really have uniform at all. And then in Ireland, I came into school with girls.
Yes.
I had to wear a uniform, and everything for me was just like amazing. It's something new. And in terms of subjects, we didn't have religion, and with the science it's like biology and geography, and mathematics was divided into algebra and geometry. So a little bit different, but there was so many things that I studied in Ukraine, so
Yeah.
it wasn't really hard to, like, there wasn't really education program was different. It was was
Yes.
similar.
Yeah.
Like I came in the 1st of April to school, and then I decided to take 6 or 7 exams to
Wow.
pass it, because I was the youngest one, and I wanted to prove that my academic level is great to go
Yes.
for a 2nd year, and I got excellent results.
That's amazing. Wow. And would I be right? Did you say you're in 3rd year? And
Yes.
you're 13?
I'm 13 and a half.
Wow, that's incredible. So that just shows you. Now, if anyone has any questions, I'm going to ask if anyone has any questions for Yeva. But before I do, Yeva, what's next for you? Because you've made such an impact with this book. It's going to be around forever, and people will learn from it, hopefully. And what would you like to see next happening with the book or with you for your future? What plans have you got?
Well, I want to see that, like, people in all the world, that all nationalities will understand how we extremely need peace in the world. That without God and with truly faith in God, the miracles can happen. And that if we will stay together, that's the beginning of peace. And if we love one another, then there will be happiness around the world.
Oh, that's brilliant. And what about yourself? What would you like to do? I was going to say when you grow up, but you're very grown up. Yeah.
I actually want to, I really hope that peace in Ukraine
Yeah.
will come as soon as possible. And that I really hope, to travel around the world, to study in Oxford University, and study law and maybe psychology, and to continue to be a writer.
Oh, well, that's amazing. So thank you, Yeva. Now, I think we deserve a big round of applause.
Thank you.
You really are incredible. Now, has anyone got any questions that they'd like to? We've got a mic here.
What happened to your wider family, sisters, brothers, cousins?
Well, I don't have sisters, but my family are just scattered around the world. There's no one left in Kharkiv. Some of them in Europe, and some of them in safer parts of Ukraine.
Thank you. Anybody else got a question for here? Yeah.
I was just wondering, what do you think of your president?
He's powerful, and we all like him, and of course we really hope, the most important that we will hope all Ukrainians and all our hearts We'll all hope for a peace to prosper and peaceful sky will shine and peace and sunshine will again in Ukraine and people will again happy. That's all we want with all our hearts.
Oh, that's wonderful. Just time for one more question, I think, Derek, yeah.
I just want to say it's been an absolute privilege to listen to you, Eva, here today. Just wondering, have you continued to keep a diary now in Ireland, or at what point did you say, I'm going to stop now? Or?
Well, I continue to write a diary, and now I'm writing my life here and how I'm getting on. And as well, I describe of my travelings, what people I'm meeting, and how's my travelings around the world, in my opinion.
That's lovely to hear, and Mary, you probably feel the same. It's great to know that you're still writing a diary because it's just so powerful to have that, even for you as a person. So I'd like to say a huge thanks to Yeva today for her openness, for her honesty, for her just sharing her traumatic experience that she's been through with us, and for the sense of hope that she's leaving us all with, because the children that are coming up now, they're an incredible generation. My mind is blown every time I go into a school and meet people, but to young people and their thoughts on the future. And Yeva, I wish you all the very best with your life. You're a remarkable person, and I've no doubt there's you're going to have a great future ahead of you. So thank you very much, Yeva.
Thank you very much for coming today.